there was something I wanted to ask you about
That
because this show makes news. Everyone knows this. All right. We're a news making show. We are keeping the wrestling news websites afloat most weeks. And shout out to all the good ones out there. There's a lot of them. And then there's a lot of not so good ones. But there was we were talking about your All About D5 promo.
All About D5.
If it walk like a chicken and it cluck like a chicken, it's a chicken. You know, that's what they said in your country. And by the way, regular viewers of reality wrestling, you're going to love something coming up in a couple weeks. That's all I'm going to say. But that video we put out of you reacting to TNA got a lot of headlines, mainly from where you said you were ashamed, was the word you used, by a lot of the stuff that you did in TNA.
Yeah.
You said when you got there, you had the best of intentions, and you wanted to do well, but you saw within a few weeks there was a lot of disorganization, let's say, within the company structure. That was going to prevent
structure. Let's say structure. I wouldn't say disorganization. Yeah, just structure.
Not a lot of structure. Okay, the better word, structure. One of the guys who saw this headline and then reacted to it on his show was Dutch Mantell, who WWE fans might know as 𝐍𝐞𝐞𝐝 when he had a run there in WWE. He said a few things on, I don't know if you saw, did you see the clip?
Yeah, I did.
Or you read it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you did? Okay. Yeah. There were a few things that he said in there that I kind of wanted to ask you about, one, for clarification's sake, because some of it didn't seem right to me, knowing you and also knowing your story. The first thing that really stuck out to me, because this doesn't sound like you, and if you can go back to your global wrestling days, your WWA days, your WCW days, your WWFE run the first time, this most recent time, your time with reality wrestling. So I think it's applicable to TNA. Dutch said that you were like bigger than the brand, or you acted like you were bigger than the brand after he said WWE released you, and then you went to TNA and you were almost acting as if you were bigger than the brand. I just want to get your comments to that.
He said he said I thought that I was had that feeling that I was bigger than the brand. And also just to go back, I was just talking about me admitting my faults. That's all. I just wanted to get it out there as far as I didn't go into TNA, thinking that I was going to, change the whole name of the game or anything. But I did go into TNA with good intentions. When things didn't happen the way I envisioned them, I just said, okay, I'm going to have some fun for these next 2 years, whatnot. But, I never thought I was bigger than the brand. When I first got to TNA, they gave me a Legends Championship, one of the most beautiful belts I ever seen in my life. And I didn't even know what the belt was for. No one never explained it to me or anything like that. No one ever gave me any direction as far as what that title meant. That's what I'm talking about as far as structure. First thing I'm going to do as far as structure go, if I got a legend coming into my company and we're creating a Legend Championship for him, he's going to know about it. Okay. I was surprised by the Legends Championship myself. I was like, oh, you kidding me? It's like a gift someone was getting. But there again, this is wrestling. Everything is supposed to be talked about, and everything's on the table. And for Dutch to say that, I don't know where it's coming from. He said the only reason I made my way there to TNA was because WWE was wrapping me up.
Right.
It gave him his notice. And I just want, I've never been fired from any job in this business, any company. I've never been fired, not once. And where he get his information, he say that's what he heard. That's hearsay. You might want to, get your sources right when you say stuff like that, because that was just blatantly false. He said WWE was not going to renew my contract at that time. And me personally, I hate talking about business, insider business, because it's not for outside. If I'm not talking about it, nobody should be talking about it. But as far as, my contract being renewed, I was at the top of my game when I left WWE. I don't know if he realized that. King Booker was at the top of his game. I was at main event status when I left WWE. It was no reason for me to leave WWE but to get my mind right. I was going through a lot of personal stuff at that time that I don't even want to talk about. That, trust me, Dutch Mantell have no idea about as far as what I was going through in my personal life at that time. And he's also said, I was looking for somewhere after WWE let me go, and I found it in TNA. Well, TNA called me. I was on the beach in Newport Beach, California, when TNA called me and asked me to come back to work. I was 20 pounds overweight and everything. I swear to God, I had to delay going to TNA because I had to go on a diet for a month straight. That's where I was. I had no intentions on wrestling anywhere at that time, but the offer came. It was a good offer. 70 days a year or something like that. I took it. It wasn't like I was breaking the bank or anything. And he say, I feel like I was bigger than the company. It seemed like I would have been one bigger than the company money when I came in. If that's the case, I had a measly contract in TNA because it wasn't about the money. I was just trying to stay in shape, just trying to stay, keep myself motivated. In the 2 years I was there, people thought I was retired. So that's not the point. That's not the point. My point is, when people like Dutch Mantell speak about stuff like this, that they don't know about, telling other people's stories, they should keep their mouth shut. All right. This is not a story for Dutch Mantell to be telling because he don't know it. This is my story as far as me getting let go or me getting fired or whatever the case may be. If you don't know it, stay. And the thing is, that story, as far as what happened with me and WWE, it's probably a select of 2 or 3 people may know exactly what happened, and I'm one of them. So that kind of stuff irks me when I hear someone totally out of bounds talking about something that they have no idea about. Now, let's go to the we got to take a break. We got to take a break.
We do because I have more on this.
No, we got to take a break in like 30 seconds. We haven't even gotten to the TNA part. We haven't even gotten there.
Well, because I'll tell you what attracted me to the video was the title was that you were difficult to work with.
Exactly my point. Exactly.
And I want to ask you about your difficulties or lack thereof in TNA. And if you thought, because look, we've talked about certain things on this show from your TNA days over the years. That some people have brought up against you.
But let's get this straight. Stuff that I really never really want to talk about until I see stories from people back in that time in TNA saying Booker T was this, Booker T was that, and I'm like, none of that is true. And the thing is, you know why it's not true? Because you don't hear none of the young guys who was relevant in that company say anything negative about Booker T. Ask Samoa Joe, ask AJ, ask Rude, ask Jay Lethal, ask Xavier Woods, ask all those guys. That's all you got to do. Don't ask the upper echelon. Talk to the boys. Stick around. You're in the Hall of Fame. We'll be back in a minute. Shoop! Welcome back inside the Hall of Fame, y'all. We just chilling, talking about a little sports and entertainment. Wrestling. We're talking about wrestling today. We got to get back in the wrestling category on a weekly. We got to start breaking news again on a regular. With this story, we better start breaking something. Let's get it going.
For those of you just tuning in the last segment, we were talking about, I call him a wrestling legend, Dutch Mantell. His name definitely rings bells inside the wrestling community. Has done a lot in the business. And what was his? Let me say what he was doing. So he was talking on his show about your comments regarding your TNA run, and the title of the video was Dutch Mantell on Booker T being difficult to work with in TNA. You've addressed the part about him saying you were wrapped up in WWE, coming off of the greatest run of perhaps your entire career as King Booker. And I believe you were in the main event of SummerSlam that year against Triple H.
I was.
Was that your last? I think that was your last match.
That was my last show. That was my last show.
Yeah. So, wrapping you up, I guess. But he said that people said that you were somewhat difficult to work with.
He said I was difficult. He said, and I quote, I was difficult to work with. I would get, have an agent would tell me something and immediately I would want to change it. That's what he said.
Not only would immediately you want to change it, he said you would immediately run to Vince Russo to get him to change it. And then Vince Russo would tell you to talk to Dutch, and then Dutch would tell you to talk to Jerry.
That never happened. I may have had, a few conversations with Vince when I was, with Jeff when I was there. I had a few conversations with Vince, of course, just because he was writing everything. As far as Dixie, I never had one conversation with her about a match. One time,
because he said you went over everyone's head and went to Dixie.
Yeah.
Right?
Not one time did I ever talk to Dixie Carter about a wrestling match in that company. Never. That wasn't even not one time. And me getting bounced around like that, as far as what's the concept on this finish? If it's something that I didn't like, I was going to say I didn't like it. It was just that simple. It wasn't like I was, feeling like I was big shot than anybody else or anything like that. But I did specifically want. I really didn't care about what anybody else's segment looked like, but I did want the segment that I was going to be in to look a certain way. I did want that. Just because I'm a professional. I'm a perfectionist. I want the fans to be entertained. If I'm getting the hell beat out of me, I want the fans to actually really believe it. You know what I mean? So I need everything to be proper when this is going on. It's just like, say, for instance, like I said, I hate talking inside of business, but I need stuff to be right. At one point, I think I was having an ambulance match with Robert Roode. I think it might have been Robert Roode. And at one point they wanted, it was before the ambulance match, it was before the match ever happened. They just had a prop out there. They wanted me to beat the hell out of Robert Roode and throw him in the ambulance, hit the door, and then the ambulance drive off. And I go, wait a minute, he's the baby face. Should he be beating me up and throwing me in the ambulance? Now, and I say that because I didn't care about me being beat up and thrown in the ambulance. I just wanted it to be right. Get my point?
100%. Yeah.
And if me speaking up on stuff like that makes me difficult to work with, good God, I feel for this business. One thing about guys, sometimes when I hear a lot of times older guys, and I'm an older guy myself, but I try to think young. I'm around a lot of young guys, and I try to think that I'm not the smartest guy in the room all the time. That's just my nature. Some guys are just too old to even be talking about this stuff, because at the beginning of that clip, they talked about I think the co-host, I'm not sure what his name is, he asked Dutch, he has a question about Booker T being in TNA, him being difficult to work with. I know you don't remember a whole lot about your TNA days, but what do you remember about this? And then he elaborated, you don't even remember anything. So how can you remember what my conversations with people were and my dealings with people were, and my act, that kind of stuff, man? It's just, I think people should stay in their lane and talk about stuff that they know about more than anything. And a lot of these old guys, man, I'm gonna tell you right now, they forgot about a lot of stuff. Their memory is foggy, and a lot of times they're just making up stuff. You've seen the territories, right?
Yes. all Fugazi. Like, I don't believe anything I watch on that show. You know what I mean? I don't believe anything.
Okay. I think Dutch Mantell was on one of the episodes.
He might have executive produced it, for all I know. I'm just playing. Well, and here's the thing. Like, look, I don't know Dutch Mantell from Adam. I've never met the man. Wait
a minute. I don't know Dutch Mantell.
Yeah.
I mean, even when he was in WWE as 𝐒𝐤, I've never broken bread with Dutch Mantell. I've never sat with him and really gone over, what's the psychology of wrestling is all about. Or I don't know what guys like that, obsession is about speaking on me is all about. I really don't. I had a hell of a career. I got 2 rings. Show him. Let's see him. I don't have a moment right now. Oh, that thing. But I got several world championships.
Got a couple.
Tag team champ. And you know
There's
what? I'm not looking at that as nothing but anything other than the company believed in me enough to put me in position at that time to represent the company. So don't nobody act stupid and go out there and say, well, he's thinking about he's winning all these. Look, I know what the wrestling business is. I know I was good enough to be in it. I know I was good enough to work at the top level and work with anybody in this business, bar none. I work with the best. I work with the best. And the guys that work with me, the best of the best, the Bret Harts of the world, they'll tell you how good Booker T was. They'll tell you. The Rocks, they'll tell you how good Booker T was. The Stings of the world, they'll tell you exactly how good that young man was. He was good. I've actually been compared to Michael Jordan, the Michael Jordan of professional wrestling. That's me. So for me, I know what I've done in this business. I'm not braggadocio about it or anything like that. I've always known it wasn't about me. Even when I went to TNA, I honestly, truly knew that it wasn't about me. I honestly, truly knew that I went in there to make all of those guys better. Now, like I say, after a couple of weeks, I did lose my zeal for going out there and performing, and at that level. I say, let's have some fun. They talk about my British accent.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up.
Okay, go ahead. What's your
because there's actually three more things I want to say about this. One, I have heard people call you the Michael Jordan of professional wrestling. Ironically, it was Scottie Pippen who called you that. So I don't know if that was a compliment or not. but no, in all seriousness, when I was watching this video, they were talking about Zeb was like, and yeah, he was on commentary one time and he starts talking in this British accent. And I didn't know where the hell that came from. And then his co-host, no shame to him, said, it's not really a British accent, which is funny because, he's English. He was like, this is a hangover from the King Booker run. And I'm like, well, in no disrespect to Dutch, but like, if you don't know Booker's King Booker run and where that British accent may have come from, right, then I can't really listen to anything.
Wait a minute. No, that's not the most important part.
What's the most important part?
The most important part to that, I did start doing the British accent, okay? But at one point, Zeb said, that's Zeb.
It's Zeb, Dutch.
That said that he didn't know where it came from. He worked in the office. He worked in the office.
Right.
So he went to Vince Russo. He said he didn't know where it came from. Now, that's what I mean by structure.
He said Jeff didn't know where it came from.
Jeff didn't know where it came from. No one knew where it came from. Okay, now I get it. You guys are office guys. Maybe you want to go ask the talent, hey, man, what are you doing with this, using this accent? We don't want this on the show. Am I right here?
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about as far as structure. No one was telling me what to do. No one was telling me what not to do. No one wrote a promo for me or anything like that. No one, so if I'm wrong here about something, let me know. But I think I'm 100% right about structure, and that proves it.
Well, that proves it right there. Well, no. The other thing
I had a guy on my show showed up, and he wanted to wear some face paint and stuff and whatnot. And I told him, what the hell do you think you're doing? We don't do that over here. He did it on the other side of town on a regular basis, but you don't do that reality wrestling because we got what? Structure. Mm-hmm. Everything's structured a certain way. And he's working in the office, and he doesn't have, he doesn't have the wherewithal to come and ask me, hey, Book, I'm not going to use the other word. He doesn't have the wherewithal to come and ask me, hey, Book, what are you doing using the accent? We really don't want that here. That's kind of like what you did over there in WWE, and we don't want it. Seemed like you would have had the nerve to come and say something to me, but no one had any courage. No one had any zeal to actually come and tell me.
That's your word of the day, zeal. You've been looking up stuff for NXT. That's what's going on.
Because his co-host had a problem and almost didn't understand the word. Okay, go look it up. Stick around. You're in the Hall of Fame because I look everything up these days. We'll be back in a minute.
I have a question though about one other thing that he said that I just want confirmation on because it wasn't about you. But I have to know if this is true or not. He did talk about at one point, Jeff Jarrett used to walk around with a Bluetooth. And if Jeff didn't want to talk to you, he would point to the Bluetooth and act like he was on a call. Is that true? Because if it's true, it just shows to me that Jeff Jarrett is one of the greatest workers of all time. It just shows to me he's one of the best ever. That's good. That's a good gimmick. Sorry, brother.
I used to walk around in the gym, with earphones on, and I made sure, if I could hear somebody say something to me and I wouldn't answer, but I can assure you that never happened.
Okay.
Okay. I can assure you that never happened.
With you.
With me.
Right.
At one time. And I don't know what these guys get off thinking that, I don't know, you might could do that kind of stuff with Dutch, but no way that would go over with me very well at all. Okay.
I didn't see it.
If anybody knows me, knows something like that would not go well with me. As far as being passive, that's not my nature at all. And if I had, a problem with Jeff and I would talk about it, because Jeff and I we've always been straight up. Jeff and I, we've always been men. Jeff has been nothing but a businessman as far as I'm concerned since day one, when he, put me over for my first world title. Even in that company, Jeff and I, we had like disagreements, but we were able to talk about it. Jeff was at least able to talk, I remember Jeff getting hot at me one time in TNA because I wanted, a match to go a certain way. I remember, and Jeff was like, "Man, we ain't got time for that. We got to get going." And I'm like, "Look, bro, I respect that 100%. I respect that. The guy that I'm not gonna respect is I'm speaking in a British accent. He wondering, he's in the office. Why am I speaking in a British accent? He don't have the seal to come and ask me, what the hell am I doing on this television product? You know what I mean? So,
what does he not have?
The zeal. Yeah.
Well, that is. I don't think there's anything else that he said that we need to.
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because, like I say, I'm not shy about anything that I've done in this business. I'm not ashamed of anything that I've done in this business. If I am ashamed of it, I'll admit it. Just like I admitted that I was ashamed of some of the stuff that I did in TNA, acting a fool the way I was acting. I go back, but the thing is, I was telling Sharmell about this, and I was telling her about me admitting how ashamed I was at some of the stuff I did in TNA. And she goes, "Baby, 20% of you acting a fool is better than 100% out there guys on their best day."
Yeah.
And then I go back and I look at some of that stuff, me acting a fool in the ring with the microphone, beating guys up. I can't tell you how many clips that video has. Some of the stuff that Steiner and I did, I mean, it was just funny stuff. It was wrestling. It was entertainment. And it wasn't hurting anybody more than anything. But am I ashamed of the way I left TNA? Yeah, I am a little bit. The way that my final match was, and I left, on the stretcher and whatnot. And the thing is, was I protecting myself at that time? Also, something that Dutch had said also, as far as I had one eye on the ball of WWE the whole time I was in TNA. That's totally not true. But protecting myself, as far as not letting that company bury me on my way out like they wanted to. Yes, I bucked the system. I didn't do things the way they wanted them to be done at the end. Not at all. Just because I did not want my career to be ruined by my time in TNA. Am I wrong for that?
No. But correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you protect your character in every company you work for?
Every company I've worked for, I think I've protected my character. Every time I've had something that I had to voice my opinion on, every time that I had to voice my opinion on something, I've voiced my opinion. I hear people, they say, WWE writes my check. Yeah, they write my check. But ESPN writes it. Reality of Wrestling writes it. You know what I mean? Speaking engagement rights, it, you know, conventions, they write it. You know, so I gotta, treasures, WWE treasures, they write it. You know,
That's A&E money, dog.
USA Network, A&E, they write it. So yeah, a lot of people write my check, and but that don't change my opinion on nothing. Anything that you hear come out of my mouth here inside the Hall of Fame is 100% legitimate, coming from Brad Gilmore and Booker T. Don't nobody call me and tell me what to say. Never here inside the Hall of Fame or anywhere else to that fact. And I just, people might think that, they may want to believe that, but that's fake news, dog.
100%, man. Well, you know what? I'm glad that we cleared that stuff up with what Dutch said. To me, when I saw the headline of it, I knew that there was going to be some falsehoods spoken, whether he knowingly or not.